Hi, everybody. It is, I believe, 2 o'clock, and we are going to get started. Um, Thank you for being here. My name is Giselle Carson. I am a business immigration attorney. Probably several of you know me from working with me, talking to me. Um, and I want to make this presentation as engaging as possible. This is all for you. So even though I have many slides to go through, which they're kind of already moving on their own to some degree, uh, the whole point of doing this is to give you an opportunity to ask questions as I go through this presentation. So I actually have Ellen and Danielis, we're part of our team on the chat. So please use the chat to interact, ask questions, and I will be pausing every so often to make sure that we're addressing those questions as much as I can. Again, immigration is very fact specific, but many issues kind of repeat themselves. So hopefully some of the questions that you have are the same questions that others have. So engage, ask questions. We're here to help you. And the other thing that I have to say to you, congrats. It's been another unusual H-1B cap lottery. We never know what to expect when we're going into this process. And all I have to say, I've kind of stopped saying challenging and all of this, and I'm just calling it unique. So welcome to H-1B cap. You were selected. Now what? Now, to get you all started, because I want you to be comfortable with using the chat, or again, we're using the Zoom, maybe you can give me thumbs up, but how is the volume? Can anybody tell me in the chat, is the volume okay? Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. All right, so these are the things, thank you. These are the things that we're going to talk about. You were selected. So now what is the next thing in terms of timeline? How are things going to work? The team members' responsibilities, and when I mean team, it's all of us. It's the employer, it's the foreign national, it's us. And again, some of you that have worked with us before and are working with us before, you know that I use the word teamwork and partnership because we all contribute to the end result. I'm going to talk about the project sample, which is something that we have been using successfully for the last 3 years to, I almost say, to overcome RFEs so that we have not been getting RFEs because of the project sample. So, and this is primarily for the foreign nationals. So when I get there, pay attention. RFE issues, RFE stands for request for evidence, and this is additional evidence in addition of what has been submitted originally, and ongoing work authorization, which is, again, the main objective here, and travel. And I put travel here because I always get a question about travel, so we'll get to that hopefully as we go as part of the presentation. Next, I want to thank the people behind the screen here. Some of you, again, may have talked to them on Zoom and have seen them. Some of you may have never seen their faces because you talked to them on the phone. But our core team is there. Tyra is at the top, and Ellen at the bottom, and Danielle is at the bottom. No particular reason as to why they're on those places. They all are part core team. And we're all here to help you and look forward to your success. That's our ultimate goal. So this is what the selection notices look like. Actually, probably none of you may have seen this yet. So when you were selected, or the foreign national was selected in the My USCIS account, there is a little kind of download your notice of selection button. And this is kind of what the notice looks like. And it says, notice type registration selection. And this is actually, I think the one, yeah, this is one from last year. And so here's where the timing begins. We have 90 days from April 1st to prepare the whole package and file it. And that is what we're going to talk about. For some of you, it is more important than others, that timeline, and particularly for those of you that are benefiting from cap gap, which I will explain as we go through the presentation. Any questions so far? Looking at the chat, I know I don't see anything there. Okay, so timeline. So the first piece of this timeline for us is the strategy. So we look at everybody that has been selected and we prioritize. Everyone is important, but they all have a priority to some degree, because at the end of the day, the ultimate goal is to make sure that those who are on their cap gap get filed within the time that they benefit from the cap gap. So typically those are the ones that we aim to get out the door first and get filed, and you will understand this more if you don't understand cap gap as I go through the presentation. And then of course we aim to file, or we will file everybody by the timeline. What typically happens is it takes us about, let's say this is April, most likely everybody will be filed by the end of May. And it doesn't matter whether you file the first week, the second week, it's as long as you file within the timeline. So the strategy is who needs to go first and why. Second is the LCA and filing. For those of you that have done H-1Bs before, you kind of know the LCA, but for those of you that are new, LCA is something that needs to be filed before and certified before the H-1B petition gets filed. So this gets filed with the Department of Labor, is coming back within 7 to 10 days certified in most cases. And then that certification goes into the documents that we're gathering to prepare the petition. As the LCA is being certified, we're continuing the gathering document process and just going through the timeline. The LCA gets back and is certified. We finalize the H-1B petition, the filing, and we send it off to USCIS with lots of sprinkles and lots of luck so that potentially we don't get an RFE. So LCA in a little bit more detail gets filed. And again, I understand that there are some people on the webinar that have done this before. And I have people that have no idea what the LCA is. So I'm trying to cover the whole scope. LCA filed with the Department of Labor is a specific and unique certification to H-1B filings. Well, H-1B is E3s also. Contains the job title, the wages, the location of employment. And actually, this is something new that we're addressing, particularly this year with these filings because of COVID. So as employers, we're talking to you and employees as to where will you be working? Are you going to be working remotely? Are you going to be working from home? Are you going to be working from the home office? That plays this year, plays a new strategic role in the LCA preparation. So just keep that in mind. Then again, certification is required before the petition is filed, taking 7 to 10 days. Notice of posting, again, is something else that needs a strategy this year. In the notice, it's required to be posted at the location of employment and or headquarters or the intranet. So again, if the foreign national is working primarily or only at home, this notice of posting needs a strategy on a case-by-case basis. So again, employers, foreign nationals, keep this in mind as we individually work with you in your particular case as to what to do, okay? And then there is something else that is proven notification to the beneficiary. And for the foreign nationals, what we do is once the LCA comes back certified, we will send you a copy of that certification, and we're also going to send you a document basically has 2 lines on it, something to the effect of I have been provided with a copy of the LCA, and you need to sign it. We cannot file your H-1B petition until that certification, that notice, that paper is back from you. So that is part of your file that goes back to your employer, and it's called a public access file once the H-1B petition has been finalized. Supporting documents. Okay, so petitioner's exhibits. Okay, this is for you employers. You know, I always, what do you need from me? What do you need from me? So here is our wish list for you. And some of you have already sent me this. So again, this is for everybody. Job description for the position supporting the H-1B filing. We typically go to your website and look for other online content to provide background information about the company. In most cases, the printings that we get from online are not really pretty. And I really like, imagine USCIS is going to get 85,000 or more H-1B petitions. I want yours to be the most exciting, the prettiest, the ones that the officer is going to look at and say, this is awesome. I'm not going to look any further. I'm just going to approve this. And that requires, I mean, many of you, we do a lot of work for design construction companies. And you know that beauty is part of what you create. And we take that also onto your petitions, and we try to make sure that we design, we create something that it looks good, it looks organized, so that the reaction of that adjudicator is positive from the get-go, okay? So going back to your website, the things that we print from the website are not necessarily the prettiest because they're not intended to be printed and provided as evidence. So we're going to be looking for you and asking, do you have any catalogs? Do you have any brochures? Do you have marketing collateral? And many of you have phenomenal marketing collaterals that are designed for electronic marketing collaterals. And those are the ones that we want to get our hands on, okay? Also requests for proposals that the marketing department makes. They're beautiful. They really represent the companies well. So we're looking for that. Employee benefits, employee manuals, also quite often are well designed, and I use them depending on the case. Supervisor's license, if we're working with an architect, a civil engineer. So those are the kind of things that we are going to be looking for, supporting documents from the employer side. Questions so far? Clarification: foreign nationals can sign the LCA acknowledgement document electronically. Okay, that was Ellen. Yes. Thank you, Ellen. That's a good point. Okay, supporting documents from the beneficiary. So this are your educational credentials, and typically we're going back to your bachelor's degree and your transcripts, your U.S. master's degree or your master's degree and your transcripts, PhDs and transcripts, and translations. If you don't have them, they should be translated. And if you do not have a U.S. equivalent degree of your last degree, then we're going to need that also. And it's not everybody. There are specific agencies that provide these equivalencies. And I believe for all of you that we're working with right now, we have those in place. And it's part of the process that we did before filing. Immigration documents, we are going to need all your I-20s signed and approved, especially the last ones. And those are the ones that I typically get that I have to go back, or we have to go back and ask for them, because you have the one that, you know, you got at some point but wasn't signed or approved. So go back to your I-20s again, particularly the last ones, the one that approve your CPT or approve your last OPT or approve your last STEM. Those are the ones that we want back, and also all your EADs. Pay statements, we typically get those right before filing. But again, filing is going to go very quickly. So you can, you know, start collecting those and make sure that you have at least 2 or 3 pay statements to go with your filing. And the project summary, I'm going to cover that in a lot more detail. Questions so far? Oh my goodness, this is a very quiet group. This is unusual. Are we doing so good so far? I guess so. Okay, here's the project sample. So the idea with the project sample is that, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it when you coming back. Otherwise, this virtual webinars feel very lonely. So the reason for this project sample is the H-1B petitions require that the foreign national is going to work in a specialty occupation and is applying knowledge that they receive through at a minimum a bachelor's degree. Okay, so the project sample kind of combines the specialized knowledge and specialized duties with the education that support how the foreign national can do this required duties. Okay, don't overthink it for nationals. I have gotten some project samples that are pages and pages long, and it takes a lot of time, a lot of your time that I know you don't necessarily have, and I'd rather you spend that time on other things. So the project sample is not going to. I mean, it's the whole package that makes your case. Just follow the instructions that we're going to give you for this project sample and you're going to be fine. I don't need you to come up with the most amazing project that you did. I tell you things like, YMCA or a hospital design, or just think of things that are value to your community that you are involved in, and think of that as your project sample, and obviously share it with me, with Ellen, with Tyra, and we'll tell you, yeah, that sounds good, let's go for that. Okay, we're aiming at one project, maybe two. We want to have some pictures. Again, the idea is that we want to make your project, your work alive. We want to show through pictures what you're bringing back to the community. So we will give you a project sample, like something like you're seeing on the screen, that pretty much you just have to look at it and fill in and change words as it applies to you and to your project, obviously, and to your duties. And then I need you to take your transcripts, and this is actually where it takes the most time. I need to take your transcripts primarily from your bachelor's degree, but it depends on the position, and then look and see, okay, in order for me to design and analyze and whatever the job duties are, I will have used this courses that I'm drawing the knowledge to be able to do this from this particular courses. And you fill in that into the project sample, okay? And then at the end of the day, we have a project that shows USCIS how you're going to use your specialized knowledge to contribute to the community by using the skills that you learned in school. Says the project sample made by the employer or the employee. Yeah, primarily the employee, but may need to work on it with the employee's input. Yeah, so that's a good summary of that. So, and sometimes what the employer comes into play primarily is, sometimes the photos may not be accessible to the foreign national, the employee, for whatever reason, although typically they do have photos of whatever they're working on. But yeah, it's primarily a foreign national component. And again, we'll give you a sample. We will work with you on it, and please don't overthink it, because sometimes I get project samples back that look nothing than what we gave you, and we go, okay, where was the disconnect? And primarily it's just because you're overthinking it, and really not necessary. Just follow, and that's why we have created the samples for you. Okay, questions so far? And adding to this, and some of you may have heard me say this, I was extremely proud last year that all of our H-1B petitions caps, and we filed quite a few last year that were selected. We got no RFEs on any of them. We got them all approved before August. I mean, it's something that I'm really proud of. That, again, it was teamwork. It was the employers providing us what we needed from them. It was the foreign nationals providing us what we needed from them, and us putting it all together timely back to USCIS. And this project samples was the little icing on the cake that made a difference as to, because it's so vivid, as you can see as an adjudicator. Oh my gosh, they're working on designing or enhancing or expanding the emergency department of, you know, whatever hospital. And that touches the community. So keep that in mind, okay? All right, success strategy, lots of documents. And this is one of our, and this is literally how they go out to USCIS. I hope you think that's pretty. I think it is. We go above and beyond to make sure that they present well, in addition to making sure that the evidence that is in there, that's not fluff. That is solid evidence. Okay. Okay, processing. So this is a question that I get asked a lot. Should I premium? Should I regular process? You know, what should I do? And so here's the overarching picture. You can file regular or you can file premium. Regular processing right now is taking between 3 and 6 months for an H-1B that is filed regularly. The key here is, and again, last year, if I remember correctly, we filed most of our petitions regular, not premium. The only time that I would, and again, I recommend premium very strategically. So if there is a need for premium, a business necessity or something, we will strategize the premium processing with you, but it's $2,500. So it's not just, you know, it's not just a little amount of money. The key to the process, if you decide to file regular, and we get towards August, September, and again, we're looking at this every day, and for some reason there is a backlog and the petitions are not getting approved, we need to look at premium, because this, unless you have a stem, and I'll go through that later on, but if you are using the cap gap ends September 30th. So if we're using cap gap for you to keep you employed and your petition has not been adjudicated by end of August, beginning of September, premium should be considered, okay? Because you're only covered through September 30th. Now going to premium. Premium is faster processing, not necessarily an approval, it's just faster adjudication. That could be an approval, that could be a request for additional evidence, or it could be a denial. Hopefully not. I don't think any of the cases that we have, well, I wouldn't take a case that from the get-go, I know that it was going to be a denied, which crazy. I hear immigration attorneys say, sure, let's just file it just so that we can gate time, even though you're going to get denied. And I'm like, that's not a good idea. So faster processing, the timeline is 15 days adjudication. And the reason why I say this is a strategic is because if USCIS gets a whole bunch of H-1B petitions, all premium processing, the adjudicators, all they have to do, all they're required to do within 15 days is give you an answer. And again, that answer could be a request for additional evidence. So if you push them to give you an answer when they're not ready to give you an answer because they're overworked, you'll get back a request for additional evidence, which is not necessarily what you need. So again, I use this strategically, and not to say I do file premium, but I will strategize that with you on each case. Last year, and we don't know what is going to happen this year, USCIS hasn't said it yet, but I'm putting this here so that you know what happened last year. Last year, USCIS suspended premium, and it allowed it in 2 phases. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do this again or not. We'll see. So plan for it. The way they did it last year, it was the first phase, H-1B petitions requesting change of status. They were going from F1 to H1. They started allowing premium as of May 27th. The other petitions that were requesting anything else, cap subject, so they were requesting consular processing, and they were not from F1, they would have been from something else. They would not, we wouldn't be able to file premium until June 29. So keep this in mind if you're thinking premium. The other question that I get about premium is who needs to pay the $2,500 for premium. Employers are not required to pay the $2,500 for premium. This is an option that is available for employers and foreign nationals to pay. So it has to be decided between you all if it's a business necessity, whether this is something that the business thinks that they should pay, and if it's not a business necessity, if it's something that the foreign national wants to do because a personal issue, because they just want to get it over with and they can do it, then the foreign national can pay the premium. Okay. I get a lot of questions about this, so I want to make sure that you're all good with what I've said so far with premium processing. Good. Okay. Next, after filing. Okay. So USCIS, and again, thank you. Good to go. So what happens after filing? USCIS is taking a while to issue receipt notices. As you probably know, everything is delayed. Actually, when Amazon Prime is delayed sometimes, I mean, the whole world is delayed. And so it goes with USCIS. The receipt notices are coming slowly. It could take 5 to 20 days before we get a receipt notice. When the case is filed, it's placed in a queue for processing. Those that were able to use premium and premium is paid for, we get those receipts faster. And again, that's one of the reasons some people pay for premium. They just want to have the peace of mind. The case was accepted, the case was approved, whatever. And as soon as it's put in the mail, we start monitoring, what's happening with your case, and we will continue to update you as the process goes along. All right, you heard me talk about the cap gap extension. This is really important for those of you using cap gap. This is actually a gift. I call it a gift. There's a few things in immigration that I call a gift, and this is one of them. Because before there was, when I started practicing, and probably for the first 10 years that I practiced immigration law, there was no cap gap. If your OPT ended and you didn't have an employment authorization document or anything to keep you in the United States, you couldn't continue to work through September 30th. So right now what happens is April 1st, the filing opens. Okay, so you can follow on my timeline. USCIS starts accepting petitions. Let's say your OPT ends on June 1st. Your EAD OPT ends June 1st. In order for you to take advantage of this cap gap, we have to file, and USCIS needs to have accepted your H-1B petition by or before June 1st. Okay, the fact that you were employment authorized when we filed, and the fact that we filed your H-1B petition before the expiration, and USCIS accepted your H-1B petition before your employment authorization expired, your OPT-EAD, provides you with an extension of your work authorization through September 30th, okay? And it's almost like there is no real, it's almost like magic. And that's what I put in that little star there. It's a magic thing that happens. There is no real paper or anything that you get to show that you're in cap gap. It's just something that happens because it was created by a memo. and it's just the way it is. So what we do, obviously, as I said at the beginning, is we make sure that those of you that are going to take advantage of this gap, that you are done filed before your OPT-AD ends, so that you can take advantage of this gap. And what happens is we'll let you know that your petition has been filed because we just have the FedEx receipt. You let your DSO, your designated school advisor at the university or the college know that your H-1B has been filed. They update your service record, and employers, and I will be doing another webinar primarily for employers on the I-9 compliance issues. How do you re-verify this work authorization from someone going from an F1 to H1 using the gap? What do you do with the I-9? And then what happens when that person, when it begins October 1st, and now that person is in H-1B status? What do you do with the I-9? What do you do with the I-9 when you have someone on a STEM OPT and they just file an EAD, but the STEM OPT expires? So be on the lookout for a webinar on that, employers, because I will cover all of this. Questions so far? Because this, again, can get complicated, and I want to make sure that anyone that can take advantage of the gap does. Okay. Okay. This is also something else that, awesome. Yeah, thank you. So yes, I will plan on the I-9 webinar for this process. Now this is a general outline, because I know students or foreign nationals, you probably know this very well because this is your life or has been your life for a few years. For employers, I always get questions as to what is CPT, what is OPT, what is STEM OPT, and because these terms are very important through the H-1B process, I am covering them here. CPT is curriculum practical training. Only when the foreign national is enrolled in a school. It's authorized by the school each term, not by USCIS. It's between 1 to 20 hours during the academic semester. And basically the evidence of work authorization is the I-20 with the CPT approval. And that is why for nationals, if you remember in some of my prior slides, I mentioned your I-20s are important because they show your immigration history and the approval of your various status, okay? Then from CPT, another option, when the student, typically after graduation, they get what is called OPT. And quite a few of you are probably on OPT right now. So typically used after graduation is 12 months maximum per degree level. And this is important because I get asked this a lot too. Can I go back and get another bachelor's degree or another master's degree? No, it's per degree level. Full-time is over 20 hours a week. This is authorized by USCIS, so you do need an EAD. And then a STEM OPT, which I'm going to cover in probably in more detail, I think, because some of you will use a STEM OPT if for some reason your petition is not approved by October 1st. So only for designated STEM students or majors, only use after post-OPT, so you can't jump to STEM without using OPT first. 24 months, full-time, authorized by USCIS, so you do need an employment authorization card. And this is a question I get all the time. Well, you know, I have OPT, I got selected. STEM requires another filing with USCIS so that you can get that EAD. It is time consuming, it requires a training program. So I get all of that, and then, you know, should I bother registering for STEM? And this is another gift. If you have that option, please go for it. Don't even question it. So many times this has become useful. So I just want you to be employment authorized in any shape or form that you can. So do apply for the STEM OPT if you have that option, okay? Okay, travel. This is another question that we get a lot. And so I'm breaking it down here. international students, let's say, should the DSO, so I'm breaking for a second because I want to make sure, again, I'm doing this for you, so I want to answer your question. Should the DSO be informed about the visa change upon the H-1B approval? Yes. Or should we inform them about this now itself? Both. So good question. So your DSO should be told that you were selected under the H-1B tab. We will provide you with, I mean, for those of you that are our clients on the call, we will give you a copy. You remember that approval, the selection notice, the first slide that I had? You will get a copy of that for nationals and the employers. That is actually also part of your package that we're filing with USCIS. But for the foreign nationals, you can provide that notice of selection to your DSO at the school. So they will update your service record with that. Then when it's filed with USCIS, again, before June 30th, and once we get the receipt notice, which again, it's taken its time, we will give you a copy of that. Again, update your DSO with, here is my registration, my receipt notice from USCIS. Please update my service record. Once your H-1B is approved, again, update your DSO. So at least 3 times. Okay. Good question. Thank you. Okay. Travel. 3 pieces here. We file pending with USCIS, change of status petition, no travel. Okay. Don't, please, please, please. And no matter how many times I repeat this, I get a call with an emergency. Something has happened, you need to travel. If you travel, because the petition is asking for a change of a status from your F1 or whatever you're at, H4, F1, whatever, because you're asking for a change of status to an H-1B, that petition can only be adjudicated if you're in the United States, because that's when they can change your status. So if you travel, you're not in the United States, USCIS will assume that you abandon. So all of this amazing work, the selection, all the stress, it goes away. I mean, it disappears. You lose everything that we have all worked hard for it, okay? So file pending, change of status, no travel at all. After the H-1B change of status has been approved, so that now USCIS approved the change of status, but it's not, again, the H-1B becomes effective October 1st. So really, you're not, even though they've approved it, you're not in H-1B status yet until October 1st. So no. After the H-1B approved, change of status after October 1st, yes, but remember that most of you have an F1 visa stamp in your passports, okay? Once you become an H-1B, you're no longer F1. So your F1 visa in your passport will not let you back into the United States. You will need to cancel a process in whatever country, if the consulate is open, if they're accepting H-1B new applications. So a lot of ifs. This is a very difficult year to travel. And I say to most of you, if you're here, you're lucky, and as much as possible, avoid travel, because it's right now, and I have people all over the world. We were trying to get them back in for various reasons, and it's not easy, okay? So question, does this same travel guidance apply for those going through an H-1B extension process? It depends. Again, if they're going through an extension process, so that's kind of case specific, but I'm going to give you a general response. If they're going through exchange of status, an H-1B extension, and their visa stamp and their passport, which quite often is the case, has expired, even though they have an H-1B stamp, is expired because they've been here in the United States for a number of years, or even at this point could still be an F1. If they travel abroad, they're going to have to need an H-1B stamp before they can get back, a new stamp before they can re-enter the United States. So I tend to avoid travel when anything is processing. And if in that situation where it's an extension, so outside of this H-1B cap, if there is a need for travel for a particular situation, and if it's a solid H-1B petition, I would strategize premium processing so that this is, you kind of take that issue away so the person travels on an approved H-1B, okay? All right, next. So this most common RFEs, again, request for additional evidence issues that we see are the specialty occupation. Actually, not that we see, basically, this is what USCIS has disclosed, that the ones that they issue the most. A specialty occupation, employer-employee relationship, beneficiaries qualification, beneficiaries maintenance of status. So all of this evidence that I've talked to you so far, so you remember back a few slides where I have exhibit, employer exhibits, for national exhibits, all of them, when we prepare our package, go to address this common RFE issue. So the specialty occupation. The specialty occupation, we address this issue and try to minimize the potential for a request for additional evidence by using this project sample that goes to support the specialty occupation. Employer-employee relationship, we use obviously your pay statements, but I think employers, if you remember, at some point we also asked for the employee benefit packages, and many of you have very beautiful employment benefit packages. We include those in the filing as evidence of the employer-employee relationship. There's other things, but I'm just giving you in general. Beneficiaries qualification, obviously your transcripts, your degrees, anything else that would support your qualifications. And again, the project sample also goes to that. And then the maintenance of a status is for nationals, all your EADs, all your I-20s. So as we prepare these packages, we aim to address these issues before we get an RFE. Not to say that we don't get RFEs. We do just like everybody else, but we aim to address them before if we can. And, just like everybody else, we do get them and we learn from them. In fact, quite often I have told Tyra and Ellen, if we get a similar RFE, I ask them to look at it word by word to see what changed so that we can start to try to figure out, okay, what is the new thinking of USCIS with this new language of the RFE, and try to address that again proactively on any other filing that we do after that. Questions so far? Okay. Yay. So at the end of the day, we get here. We have an approval notice. This is what we're all aiming for. The H-1B approval, typically 3 years. USCIS has the choice to give us a year, 2, whatever. I typically, for us, because we rarely, I would say I have rarely done third-party site placements. So most, if not all, of my petitions were working directly with the employer. I don't get into the issue of typically getting an H-1B for a year or 2 because the projects don't support the length of the H-1B validity. So all of our H-1Bs are typically granted for 3 years. This is what the approval notice would look like. If you're filing for for a change of a status, again, you're in the United States, you're not traveling abroad, you're intending to stay in here until your H-1B has been approved, your approval notice will have, it's a page longer than this, but at the bottom of your approval notice, you're going to see this little piece of paper here that says detach this half for personal records. That is your I-94 record. That is the evidence that the employer will use to update your I-9. For you foreign nationals, this is your evidence that now USCIS has approved your change of status from whatever you were. Again, it could be H4, it could be L2, it could be a F1 to H-1B. Okay, this paper is very important. It's issued, only 2 copies are issued. One, it goes to the employer, one comes to us. In fact, ours says at the bottom, copy of the attorney of record or something to that effect, or legal representative. And the other one says copy for employer. Invariably, when you go to the consulate for nationals, the officers at the consulate are going to ask you, I want to see the original approval notice. And you shouldn't have a copy of the approval notice because you don't get one. But because we've been doing this for a while, when we get your approval notice, we will email you and say, where do you want us to mail or give you our approval notice? So we will give you ours. So we will not have an original. That's it. We're giving it to you. So you are responsible for keeping that approval notice. We will keep a copy, and that's what we're going to file or keep, or if we need something, that's what. But we'll not have the original. Getting an original is very, very difficult. I had a client last year, the year before. We gave him our approval notice. I think this was in Shanghai. We gave him our approval notice. He went to the consulate for the interview. For whatever reason, the consulate decided that they were going to keep his approval notice. And it was a nightmare for him to try. And we told him, you have to go back to the consulate and get your approval because you're not going to be able to get it. So when you get it, just keep this with a lot of care. If you did not, if we did, instead of a change of status, if we did a consular processing, which could happen in some cases, again, strategically, because for some reason you're going to fall out of status or something. We did consular processing. Your I-94 or your approval notice will not have this detachable I-94 record at the bottom. It's just going to be one page without this. So you will have to go out of the country and re-enter the United States on a new visa in your passport. So you would have to consular process your H-1B, enter the United States with that H-1B visa, and that is how you activate your H-1B status, and not with a notice of approval like this. And when you come in through the border, and this is really important, actually this morning, Tyra and I were reviewing an H-1B extension petition for someone that we did 3 years ago, I think, or 3 years ago. This is an extension. So she's done her 3 years. We're going into year 4. And dad passed away. She had to go home. And literally she just came back. So we're doing her extension. So to the question actually that was just posed before. We're working on her extension. I told her, how long do you think you're going to be abroad? And she said, well, I think I'm going to be 2 weeks out and then come back. And I said, we're going to hold your filing until you come back. So she did. So she went home, took care of the things that she needed to take care of. We had plenty of time. We tried to move proactively so that we're not pressed against the timeline that we have to file. We started her case 6 months out. So we have plenty of time. She went home. She did what she needed to do. She came back. Thankfully, because again, we tell you, and again, for nationals, when you're traveling, make sure that you go onto the USCIS website, or CBP actually, and print a copy of your I-9 record, okay, your electronic I-9 record. She knew to do that because we told her to do that. She printed her I-9 record because when I reviewed the petition this morning and I said, Tyra, where's her, she just came back with her 994. And she said, Giselle, I went to CBP and the system is down, something. She couldn't print the I-94. But thankfully, the foreign national printer or kept a copy of her I-94 when she entered the country. She reviewed it. She has a copy of it. So we're going to fill out the forms with that, file it with that. Otherwise, we could have been stuck waiting until CBP system went back up to file. Okay. So that's my thing with traveling and I-9s. Can you talk through the new tax implications when they're effective, et cetera, open the H-1B being approved? I would love to, but I get, actually, frankly, I've been getting quite a few tax questions lately, and I'm not a tax, I mean, what I'm going to tell you is what I know from the practice, but it's not, and again, this is actually employer, something else that I will mention when I do the, so let me make a note of this, H-1B to, but it's just really good question. So thank you for asking, because some of you on the call may not know this. So foreign nationals in F status as a student, they're FICA exempt. So FICA has not been taken out of their pay statements right now if they're working on their OPT or something like that. But when they transfer to H-1B status, they're no longer they're no longer FICA exempt. Okay, so employers make a note of that. Again, this is something that you have to verify and check with your tax people, or accountants, CPAs, but there will be a change. And for you foreign nationals, when you see a change in your pay statements, what is this FICA thing? That is something that typically comes out of everybody else's pay statement, except for you guys on F1 status. So that process needs to happen as of October 1st when they move into H1. Okay, good question. Let's see what I have here. Okay. I'm a runner, I'm a marathoner, I'm a triathlete. So I love this picture because I, especially in the last few years, been getting a lot of questions about, well, I read this and I read this and I read this, and how does that affect me? And there's tons of stuff out there, a lot of it not clear. In fact, this morning, I got a beautiful, almost a PowerPoint presentation of a foreign national that had, before our call and our meeting, had researched his options because he wasn't selected under the lottery. And I kind of, and a lot of it was things that he had read online. And it looks good when you read it online, but the practical reality is very different. And practical reality applies to each one of your cases very different. So I'm good with you reading things online and everything, but don't take it with a grain of salt. Don't assume that everything you're reading is true. A lot of it is not, or maybe it doesn't even apply to you. So before you run to your HR, HR manager, HR director, HR professional, generals, whatever, just take a step back. I put out newsletters, I do webinars. We're here to help you to take some of that stress out of the process. And again, some things will not apply to you. It may say A, but practicality is C. So again, going back to this slide, runners move to the side of the road when the vehicle approaches. Well, if you move to the side of the road, I think there are bigger issues. I almost rather stay on the road. So just be careful with what you read online. Be mindful of it. I'm putting this here not because I want you to rush to Amazon and buy this book, but I'm putting it here just to let you know that we are passionate for what we do. The year now, actually, this is probably 2 or 3 years old now. I took a year to write this book because I was getting a lot of questions and about the H-1B process and about all the other work visas. So not myself, I mean, Tyra probably read three drafts of this and our team, put it together. So just to say, we're passionate enough to take the time to write a book about it. We love what we do. We're here for you. So count on us as a member of your team to get you to where you want to be to achieve your goals. Present and future, So I'm going to kind of end where I started. Congrats to all of you that were selected. Again, this was another very unique H-1B selection process. Who knows what the future will bring? All I know is that we made it together through 2022. And if we could do that, there is many things. We're more resilient, we're more knowledgeable, we're stronger in our belief and our passions. We're here to give you peace of mind, to help you achieve your goals. And I am just super grateful to all of you. My team, Ellen, Tyra, Danielis, have heard me say this a million times. I think we have the best clients in the world. And I hope you continue to work with us so that we can continue to help you achieve your goals. Thank you for being on the call today. I appreciate you, and I look forward to working with you so that we can make that H-1B a reality. Okay? Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.